Welcome to the first episode of the Iron Forge podcast. This will be a podcast where I interview clients, entrepreneurs, team members, and investors to hear their unique take on entrepreneurship and the startup community. My name is Chris Roach. I'll be your host on this podcast, and over the next couple of weeks, I'll be kicking off our Meet the Team series by sitting down virtually, of course, with different colleagues from all departments to talk all things Forge. During this interview, I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Kendra Galahan, one of our junior project managers here at the Forge. Welcome, Kendra.
Thanks, Chris. I'm excited to be on the first episode of the podcast.
Absolutely. So where are you located now? And the reason I ask is that I know you travel around a lot. So where are you currently located?
Yeah, I'm in Wausau, Wisconsin right now, and I've been here for about the last 3 months.
In Warsaw?
In Wausau, yep. And I've gone back and forth to Montana a couple times between there, but it's been nice to be in one spot for a little while.
Great. So what brings you to Warsaw?
I travel around with my fiance. He does fiber optics, so we travel around the Midwest mostly, but it's pretty rare that we're in one spot for more than a month at a time. So we're always on the move.
Got you. Very cool. Yeah, we always joke at Iron Forge. I think all of our team members seem to be in different states every single call. I know when we talk with clients, it was I've just come up from Florida to Wisconsin, you're in Wisconsin going to Montana. I think some is now in Montana as well. Our team seems to certainly always be on the move. So tell me about your background. So you're originally from Montana?
I am, yeah. I'm from central Montana, and it's a little town called Harlowton, about 1,000 people in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, it's pretty there. There's a lot of outdoor activities to do, and I really enjoyed growing up there.
Got you. And that's a really small town feel then.
Yes. Everyone knows you. Everyone knows your business, and yeah, you can't get away from anyone. But it's fun.
How big was your high school then?
I graduated with 17 people in my class. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's small town.
60 in the whole high school.
Got you. Are you still close with all those people from high school?
Some of them. I mean, I know where most of them are at. I'm close with probably 2 or 3 of them. So.
Got you. And then you also stuck in Montana for your college as well, didn't you? For your undergrad and your master's.
I did, yeah. So I went to Montana State University Billings. And I got my undergrad in business administration and marketing. Okay. And then I went and worked for a couple years and went back and got my master's in public relations.
Got you. Very good. Why public relations?
I was actually hoping to get in the nonprofit sector, which I ended up doing kind of just as a labor of love, not as my main source of income. But yeah, that's why I went back for that. And I really enjoyed it. It was rewarding.
Awesome. And you also studied international, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I did a semester of international business in Seinäjoki, Finland.
Okay.
So it was international students from like 20 different countries. I think there was like 150 of us maybe. And I, at that time, was the only one from the United States, which was pretty cool. It was definitely an awesome learning experience for me.
And how long were you there for?
I was there for like 4.5 months.
Got you. You didn't fancy staying afterwards? You didn't want to move out from Montana and go to Finland?
No, I was ready to go home. I missed everyone, but it was actually fairly similar to Montana. I think I had an easier time adjusting than some of my classmates. We were in a pretty small town there as well, and very cold and snowy, and it kind of felt like home to me.
Got you. Yeah, I've never been to Montana, but I've heard very positive things. I'd like to get out there sometime.
Yeah, you should definitely visit. Although tourism has been kind of crazy lately with all of the COVID stuff happening. They've said a lot of the nature destinations are where you should go during COVID, and so we had a lot of people from out of state coming right now, which is an interesting time for that. But yeah, definitely get out there when you have a chance.
So it's crazy busy in Montana right now?
It is, yeah. There's a lot of tourism going on right now in the national parks and whatnot, but I guess there's not really anything else for people to do right now, so you can't really blame them.
Yeah, absolutely. I see all the commercials on the TV for encouraging everyone to go on road trips right now.
Yeah,
Don't go on vacation, just go on a road trip, which I'm not sure how that gets around the COVID issue, but it seems to be what they're encouraging right now.
yeah, yeah. It definitely is interesting.
So I suspect not a lot of our clients, or particularly even some of our team members, know this about you, but you are also the co-founder of the Harlem Music Project.
Yeah, I am. I'm the co-founder and the director. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, and I formed it with my brother actually, in the hopes of basically just providing cultural and entertainment opportunities to the rural area where we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So we put on music festivals every summer, which obviously this summer has been canceled due to COVID, but
Mm-hmm.
it's been a lot of fun, and we've learned a lot, and we're continuing to learn how to make it work.
And how many years have you been doing that for?
We started in 2018, so we have 2 summers. This would have been our 3rd summer of the festivals, which we just postponed for 2021.
And how big are these festivals?
The first year it was a concert series, so we did 4 concerts with 2 bands at each. And last year we tried to transition to more of the festival feel, so there's 4 bands at each. And then next year there'll be just 2 dates with 6 bands at each. We want to eventually get to where it's just a traditional music festival, like one weekend, a lot of different bands. I think our biggest attendance so far was between 800 or 900 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but Harlow is really small. So trying to convince people to come to such a small town and everything is definitely interesting. But I think if you build it, people will come, and it just takes time to kind of get the momentum.
Well, when you've got 1,000 people in your town, having 800-900 people turn out is a pretty big success, I'd say.
Yeah, it's definitely, we've had a lot of support from the community, and like I said, just kind of getting the word out to other areas in the state, people kind of learning our name and wanting to come out for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. And as the director and the co-founder, what was your role actually? What did that involve with the Harlem Music Project?
So I did all of the fundraising for kind of the initial startup. So all of the concerts were funded by sponsorships and ticket sales alone. We didn't have any financial backing initially. So I did that, and then I do all of the booking, all of the talent booking for the actual performers, and everything surrounding that, providing, the lodging, the hospitality riders, that kind of thing. And then also we rely on volunteers only. So I compile all of our volunteers and things like that, our vendors, our food vendors, and then just do the promotion, get out promotional materials, that sort of thing.
Got you. And how exactly did you get involved with starting this? Was this something you'd always wanted to do from, childhood, high school? What led you to being involved in starting this festival? It's not everybody decides one day they want to start a festival.
Yeah, like I said, I had really wanted to get into nonprofit, and I actually had wanted to get into like elderly care nonprofit was what I was focusing on. I volunteered for Big Sky Senior Services in Billings when I was in college, and then I started working for a brewery. I was the marketing coordinator, and we started having live music, and that was in Harleton, and we started having live music there, and just kind of started to see how well people responded to that, and there wasn't a huge opportunity for them to go to live events like that. And I just kind of saw the need, and I thought that it was an opportunity, something that could actually work in such a small area. And so that's kind of where the idea began. And like I said, we're still learning how to make it sustainable, but it's going in the right direction.
Well, that's quite entrepreneurial. It's one of those where we always say when we talk to clients, the unique thing I think about Iron Forge's team is that we've all come from these entrepreneurial backgrounds. And, I ran a technology startup before working with Iron Forge. You've started festivals. We have colleagues that have run technology startups that have been in venture capital. So it's always interesting hearing where that entrepreneurial bug first kind of took hold of someone. So I think for you, that's definitely where that happened. And from there, being able to grow that company and grow this festival, hopefully year over year, and hopefully in 2021, when, again, fingers crossed, you're able to get back to having the festival, it continues to grow from there. When you were going through that, what are the big challenges that you face? Take COVID out of this. We know COVID. We have clients that are in the music festival space right now. As Iron Forge, we know COVID is going to impact you. Take that off the table. What are the big challenges that you faced when you were starting this festival, and really, consider it, starting a startup? Really, what did you face as the big challenges?
I think it just being a pretty saturated market. Obviously, not necessarily rural festivals in Montana. But even Montana as a whole has seen a huge growth in live performances, and just the quality and consistency of the, cities in Montana that are getting more and more live music. So I think just a matter of convincing people, you should come see this band that's touring all over Montana in Harlowton instead of in this city. And then also just, I think, with anything financially, that was one of our biggest hurdles to overcome. I mean, you don't think about how much everything costs and how much it adds up until you really start to get into the nitty gritty of it, and just kind of realizing how much fundraising you need to do and how much promotion you need to do just to break even. So I think that was probably our biggest challenge.
Go ahead. Can I ask what a break-even cost would be on a festival of that size?
Yeah, so our first summer, it was a lot smaller. I think our total cost for the summer was about $28,000. And then we over doubled that for last summer, was almost 60,000 for the summer. And then for next year, we're looking at over 70,000 for our summer. And like I said, we haven't been fortunate to break even thus far, but we certainly haven't made money yet, which is the goal of the nonprofit. Eventually, when we do make above and beyond, we want to filter that back into the community with, whether it's scholarships or, building projects in the park or whatever it might be for the Harlowton community. But
awesome. So anyone that's listening or watching this, how can they get in contact with you, or how can they, get in contact if they want to donate or be involved or volunteer? What's the best way for them to reach out to you and be involved with this program?
If they visit our website, which is harlowmusicproject.com, all of our contact information is there. And it's also linked out to our Facebook and Instagram. So if they follow us on Facebook or Instagram, they can see all of our updates about our events, and just things about bands and artists that have played there in the past or that are going to play there in the future.
Got you. Awesome. And here we have the train in the background.
Yeah.
We talked about, we knew it was coming in the background any second, but no worries. So let's move on from there. So I also believe you have some rather exciting news that happened in the past couple of weeks that you told me before the call. I know we talked a couple of weeks about this, so you have some exciting news you'd like to share with us. I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Yeah, I do. I just recently got engaged, and I actually don't even have a ring. It's getting resized right now, so I can't even show it
you're
off.
joking. It's all right. Those watching, those listening won't be able to see it anyway.
Yeah, it's true. I actually had to get it resized twice because I didn't listen to the people whose job it is to tell me what size it was, and I thought they were gonna make it too small, and it was not small enough. So. But anyway, we're very excited. It was a good surprise. It was over the 4th of July weekend. So we had a lot of family around, and it was a great day.
Got it. Are you putting I know you can put the little nubs on the inside of it. I know my wife has them on hers that stops it rotating. Are you getting those?
Yeah, my friend was telling me about those. She's like, they come in all different sizes. You need to get those. So yeah, I'll probably
my wife swears by them. It stops the ring falling around. It's my problem is my ring changes with the temperature with my hands. So sometimes it's loose, sometimes it's tight. I have the issue with it just with the change in temperatures. So do you have a date set then?
We do, June 5th of 2021, hopefully. I mean, obviously pending everything.
Fingers crossed.
But yeah.
Fingers crossed. And what state will the wedding be in? Is that going to be in Montana, Wisconsin, anywhere in the country?
In Montana. Yeah. So we're gonna get married out on one of my friend's ranches that's right near the mountains that are close to Harlow. So it'll be pretty, and hopefully it won't rain or snow.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should in June. In June, hopefully not. I don't know the weather in Montana, but in June, yeah,
Yeah, my
hopefully not.
brother got married that same weekend last year and it snowed at his. So
Ooh, that's
yeah,
tough. Yeah.
hopeful that it doesn't do that.
Yeah, I got married in Wisconsin in May, end of May time, and it the heavens opened and it just threw down with rain the morning of the wedding. It was an outdoor wedding, and then just as it was, an hour before the sun came out, and actually turned into a really nice day. I ended up getting sunburned, but we were a little bit nervous the morning off because we didn't have a backup
I'm
plan, and it was
sure.
just coming down with rain. It was terrible. So let's move on to, Iron Forge stuff. The reason, obviously, on this podcast, aside from congratulating you on your engagement, is to learn a bit more about your role with Iron Forge. So you are one of our junior project managers. What exactly does your role entail, aside from, project management?
So my role is kind of to be a liaison between clients and our developers. So kind of just making sure that we have a complete understanding of what it is a client wants to build, what their goals are with their future platform, and just translating that back and forth between the clients and the developers throughout the process.
Now, it's interesting that you say translate, and this is a debate, and quite heated debates I've got into with clients sometimes on the sales side of things. When as a role as a project manager, when you take ideas and concepts from a client, why is it so vital to have someone that can translate those to a developer to understand them? Why is that role so critical? And why does a client that's working with a development shop, why do they need a project manager? Why don't they just sit down with our CTO or sit down with our developers?
I think that there's number one, a million different things that a word can mean. So when a client says one thing, I might know what they're talking about, but when I transfer that exact word to the developers, they're gonna, take it for exactly what it is. And so it's just taking the goals of the client and making sure that it's understood by the developers and vice versa. And so it may just be listening to you, what you're telling me that you want, and then kind of reworking that, rewriting it so that the developers know exactly what it is that you're trying to do.
So yeah, I think really liaison is the correct word you use there. It's almost a consultant for the client to say, hey, we know what you're talking about. I understand exactly what you want to do. This is why we have this document, and we'll kind of talk about the discovery process in a minute, but this is why we have this document explaining exactly what you want to do. Now let me do my job and explain that to the developers, because if I tell them what you said, you're going to end up with the wrong product. And that's where I think,
Exactly.
there's a ton of software development companies that don't have project managers and don't put the emphasis on having non-technical members of their team as well as technical members of the team, or kind of these hybrid roles like yourself, that can kind of work with both ends of the spectrum. And that's why I think you see such a large percentage of software development deals go sideways. It's because of miscommunication. And I think having that role, having someone like yourself that, you understand what the developer wants to hear, how to tell them exactly what they need to do. But from the client's perspective, they don't know how to communicate that effectively to the developer unless they are a developer themselves. And even then it can be, there's obviously different issues with different language and technology stacks. And, we've been in those situations where people really struggle to get these concepts and ideas out of their head and onto paper.
Absolutely.
I think that's where that role is most important. So, how did you end up working with Iron Forge? You're from Montana. We don't have an office in Montana yet. We don't have any. I know we have our CEO is currently in Montana in his remote office. We don't have any physical office in Montana, and the closest thing we have to you is out in San Diego. Other than that, we're in Wisconsin in Madison. So, how did you end up stumbling across Iron Forge and end up becoming one of our most successful junior project managers?
I think, like a lot of people, I found myself out of work due to COVID. So I was traveling around. I was actually in Minnesota at the time, and I was applying for jobs, and I came across the Iron Forge posting, and I did a little research, looked at your guys' website, everything like that, and really liked what I saw. I thought it was innovative and just something that I could really grow within. So I applied for it and interviewed and ended up getting it. And I feel very fortunate, especially given the time that we're in, but also because it's turned out that I really love this job. So yeah, it worked out.
That's good. That always helps. We like it when our team like their jobs. You have to say that because you're on the podcast as well. So from your role has changed. I mean, when you first came on, and I believe the position you actually interviewed for is a little bit different from what you're doing now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I interviewed for an administrative assistant position.
Okay. What's an
And so,
administrative assistant?
I mean, I guess just helping. I think it was to work with Jeremy, our COO, and just kind of be his assistant
Okay.
for whatever he needed. And um, yeah, that was interesting. I applied hoping that that wasn't going to be where I would stay, but you never know. I mean, it was just kind of one of those situations, though. You know, I needed a job. I liked the company. I was like, okay, I'll be in this position then if that's what I need to do. But I'm hopeful that I'll continue to, you know, work towards bigger roles with Iron Forge, and I have kind of transitioned already, and it's been a great learning experience.
And how long did it take you to go from basically an admin to now a junior project manager, leading your team, leading projects, communicating with the client? How long did that transition take?
Um, 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Oh, got it. So it was fast track then. We saw you and fast tracked you straight to project management.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it didn't take too long, but I was happy, and it's motivating for sure when you start out, you know, maybe not necessarily where you want to be and you want to get somewhere else. And I'm thankful that you guys have given me that opportunity and trusted me with it.
And I think that's also an important lesson for people that are, like you say, I mean, people like yourself that were out of work with COVID, in a kind of a shitty situation. You can't, you maybe let go. Maybe you're in a position where you can't work where you want to be, and you have to work remote now. And sometimes it's about just taking an opportunity and seeing what that can turn into. You didn't apply for a project manager role at the time. I don't think we needed a project manager. Now we have three. And it's, from that standpoint, I think it's a good lesson to learn about being in this, this unprecedented times of, if there's a job out there that's for a company you want to work with, go and work for that company, and eventually you would get into that role.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is a good lesson. So, sticking on that theme of working remote, did you work remote prior to COVID? I know you said you were out of work. I'm assuming that was in a fixed position where you need to work.
Yeah, so I was a marketing coordinator prior to them for a brewery, and they actually shut down for a few months. And so everyone was laid off. And I did work remotely a little bit while I was finishing up my master's. I worked remotely for maybe 6 months doing that, which was actually fairly difficult to do in that industry, because you're not necessarily selling a service, you're only selling a product, like a good. So it was a happy surprise to me, actually, how easy it was getting into the remote working lifestyle with Iron Forge.
Got you. Yeah, I know. I mean, from my experience, I've only ever worked remote since I graduated college. I've only ever worked remote. I had a small office when I first graduated, and eventually just built an office in the apartment we were renting. And I've only ever worked remote. So I know when my friends and people that I went to school with, when they suddenly were put in a situation where they had to work remote and they'd never done it before, it's quite a difficult thing to get used to. It's suddenly, you have a lot of freedom, but with that comes a lot of responsibility. And it's getting to the point where you have to hold yourself accountable. And, from your perspective now, being in this remote position, has COVID really impacted your, day-to-day work life, balance, anything with just being more productive? Have you seen really any impact since working remote?
I haven't really. And I mean, obviously, I'm very thankful and fortunate to be able to say that. I do think it takes a certain level of discipline, like you said, to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable and getting done what you need to get done. But just the flexibility that it gives every day is really nice. And I think in some ways I feel like I'm actually more productive just from being given a little bit more flexibility.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. And there's a lot of studies that actually show the productivity increases significantly when you go remote. So what's your daily routine like then? I know you say presumably there's a little bit of variance with being more flexible. What's your daily routine on an average weekday when you are working remote?
Daily routine would be take the dogs out for a walk in the morning, and then I come in and just kind of, usually in my sweats, have coffee and get the day started and just start working and everything. And then obviously I have to make myself a little bit more presentable when you start having meetings and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's nice not to have to commute to work, being able to just kind of roll out of bed and start your day. And that too goes with the productivity, because I'm not wasting 30-40 minutes driving to a job. I just get to start, and then if I want to go grab more coffee or eat breakfast or whatever, I can do that. And so that's basically a daily routine, I guess, from the beginning of the morning.
Got you. And then do you schedule times in the day? Do you schedule like a definitive lunchtime? Do you take an hour off? How do you separate yourself, throughout the day? Or are you just from 8 a.m. to, 5, 6 o'clock? Are you just in the zone?
No, I don't usually schedule a lunch break. I usually just like eat at my desk, but sometimes I like to go to classes at the gym. So sometimes I'll go to a class at the gym that's at like 4 and come back afterwards and finish up a few things, which is nice to be able to do that. And occasionally, like at lunchtime, I'll take the dogs for a walk or go outside for a little bit and kind of just refocus a little bit and stretch and sitting in the chair all day.
Yeah, that's the problem. You need to get yourself a standing desk. It makes all the difference.
Yeah,
So anyone that works from home, you need a standing desk. Yeah, it makes all the difference when you're spending 8 hours a day at a desk in your house.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about that. I would like one of those.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to Sumner. We'll have him try and send one. So how is it that you keep a healthy work-life balance then? Because one of the things that I know I personally struggled with, and I know a lot of other people have done, friends that have worked remote for a long time, is when you don't leave the house to go to work, in one way you're always at work. So yeah, you can wake up out of bed and 6 a.m. you can roll out of bed and check your emails, and it's great that you can have that extra 2 hours a day, you're not commuting and all of that. But at the same time, how do you switch off? How do you disconnect from work? Because your phone's always pinging, Slack's always going, emails are always coming in, I'm always calling you, Jeremy's always calling you. You've always got somebody trying to reach you about some kind of question that that we need, that to us may be something that we can wait till tomorrow, but because we all work remote, we just send the message and people get back to us when they can. How do you not find yourself in a situation where you just work 20 hours a day? What do you do to disconnect, and how do you ensure that you have a healthy work-life balance?
Yeah, I think you just have to set those boundaries. I mean, there are certain things where if you get a message that is really pressing, that it's going to make a difference whether you respond tonight at 8 p.m. or the next day, like I will just respond to it. But I think too, we're all pretty good about, just marking on our calendars when we're going to be gone for a certain period of time, and just, holding to that. Like, I'm going to be unavailable from this time to this time on this day. And I think weekends especially, I try not to be on the computer or be on my phone. So that's helpful, just for the most part. And we've talked about this before too, like what difference is it going to make for most things, whether I send out a document at 9 o'clock tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. So yeah, I guess just setting boundaries and trying to stick to those as best you can. And then also knowing that if occasionally you are sending messages or answering phone calls at 8 o'clock, that kind of comes with the territory of you also being able to go for a walk at 2 p.m. in the afternoon if you want to. So it's just kind of a give and take, and knowing where your boundaries are.
Yeah, and I think the important thing you said there is put it on your calendar. And that's something that I have this conversation with my sales guys, and we live and die by our calendar. If it's not on the calendar, I don't know it's happening. So today I have on the calendar, I'm going from the gym from 1 o'clock till 2:30, and that's nobody can schedule meetings. That's my hour and a half because I'm doing something this evening that I know I will go, and nobody can contact me during the hour and a half. And I think putting those times on, even if it's going for a walk, even if it's going out for lunch, if it's getting a coffee with a friend, or just taking a break, putting that time on and saying, hey, this is my lunch break for 45 minutes, don't schedule meetings with me, and don't contact me, and put your phone on the other side of the room. And that's the problem that I run into most with my phone, is that I'm on social media. But if I'm on my phone on social media, I'm also getting Slack notifications, and I'm also getting Jira notifications, and I'm getting emails come in. So for me now, if I go to the gym, if I go for a walk, whatever it is, my phone's on silent, it's put on the other side of the room. I don't want to, even engage with it, because I know what happens when I do. You get sucked right back in. I think having that physical restraint from it for me has made a huge difference, because, you know, you do get to a point where, you know, you're working all the time, and, you know, I'm married, obviously you're engaged now, and, you know, having a, you know, a significant other, you can be in that situation where you don't, you know, you're not present. And that's something that I know is not a situation that I ever want to get into, where you feel like you're not present all the time because you're constantly, your mind's at work, and, you know, at 9 o'clock at night, sure, I could send that email, but at the end of the day, who cares if I send it now or send it tomorrow morning? The client doesn't care, you know, unless it's
Right.
something where, you know, shit's hitting the fan and, you know, software is breaking, which, you know, touch wood, we've never had that situation happen. It can wait till tomorrow morning. I think having that situation and realizing that for people that are just starting off working remote, or have just suddenly been forced to work remote, is something that is going to help them really get through this period. Because from what I can see, you know, this isn't going away anytime soon. I think between now and really Christmas, January, February next year, a lot of people are going to be working remote, and with the winter obviously becomes a whole other host of problems. And I think setting that time aside allows you not to get sucked into, you know, just working all the time and kind of going down that negative spiral.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, regardless of, you know, the state of COVID, I think a lot of people are finding that they are more productive working remotely, and that it actually is working really well for them. So a lot of places might just continue doing that even after
Mm-hmm.
they're in the clear.
I gotta tell you what, I would hate to own a lot of office real estate right now. I think they are in some very sketchy territory. I would hate to be in someone that rents out office real estate, because you are really pushing water up a hill. Because when companies finally figure out that working remote is more productive, and that you don't need to get together every day, it's they're in trouble. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And that really brings on to our next point, which is quite a strange one, actually, in that you've never met anybody you work with, have you? We've never met in person. You know, you've never met anybody in our team.
No, no. I was in Montana last month, and Sumner was there as well, and we thought about maybe meeting up, but we were still like 7 hours apart, and it didn't end up happening. And so, yeah, that is very interesting. And it's funny too, because I feel like I know you guys. Like I mean, I talk to you guys all day, every day. But it is interesting. That's certainly new for me. I've never been in a position where I hadn't met my coworkers in person, but
Do
hopefully
you think?
eventually we will.
Do you think it makes a difference that you've not met in person?
No, I mean, I feel like we still have, you know, kind of the baseline friendship. We still have make the time to kind of talk about things that are happening in our lives as well as work. Um, and no, I don't think it's negatively affected anything. I think it would be nice to meet everyone in person eventually, just to have that interaction. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's negatively affected the workspace at all.
No, I'm looking forward to being able to go and get a beer with everybody, because we've
Yeah.
not. I mean, again, I mean, I've with my team, you know, I see each of them very sporadically. You know, obviously, I see some members of the team more often than others. On my sales team, you know, our recent hire Nick, I've still not met him in person. I'm now actually only 5 hours away, so I will be trying to meet up with him the next couple of weeks. But again, it's one of those where it feels like I know him. I feel like I've known him for a long time, but we still never met. And the same with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've known you for a very long time. I feel like we talk quite often about things that aren't even work related, and we have quite a, like I say, an understanding and base level friendship. But it is weird that it's always been on a computer screen, and you've never, you know, you've never had that interaction. It's very strange. Do you ever feel, you know, because, you know, obviously I've met people, I've met a lot of our team members. I've worked with them for a couple of years. Being a new hire that hasn't met anybody, do you ever feel like you're on an island? You know, do you ever feel like you're not as connected as you would be if you were in an office? Do you ever feel like, you know, not necessarily an outsider, but do you ever feel like you're missing out on something by working remote the whole time and never having met people?
I think maybe at the very beginning I did initially, just being as like jumping on calls with the whole team, and being like, this is your introduction, and you're just like, hey, on a screen to everyone. I think at the beginning I felt like that a little bit, but as I've continued to work with everyone and just have more of that day-to-day communication, I don't feel like that anymore.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's nice how it builds up. You know, you build up a confidence and you build up a relationship with everyone. And again, across departments, you know, we all work in different departments, and it's but it doesn't mean that you have to stick to only talking to people from, you know, from sales. Like, I don't just talk to sales guys. You don't just talk to operations. The developers don't just talk to developers. It's nice how the team can still interact. And I know for us, those happy hours we do on a Friday every couple of weeks has been really nice to get, you know, 15, 16 of us on the call, because then you can see everyone. And, you know, I mean, we obviously have guys in England, we have guys in, you know, across the states, you know, all over the world right now. So to be able to have that interaction, I think has been very nice for us, just to keep that sense of community in quite a scary time for a lot of people. You know, we're, you know, touch wood, we're very fortunate in our careers that things seem to be going very, very well. But I know a lot of people are in uncertain times. So I think having that for us has made a huge difference. The final question that I'll ask you is, you know, really, what's your fondest memory been of working with Ironforge over the past, you know, 6 months? Is there anything that sticks out to you on, you know, aside from this interview and this podcast, that's your fondest memory of being with Ironforge?
I don't know about specific memory, but I would say that I have felt very motivated to be working with such a group of like entrepreneurs, like we talked. And it is really just a team with such diverse skill sets. And it's really interesting to see how that all comes together and works really well. And yeah, it's a young group of innovative people, and I like being around that energy, and it motivates me. And I guess that's been my favorite part.
Awesome. Well, Kendra, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out of your hectic schedule to sit down for this quick interview. We will be posting this video on podcast shortly in the next couple of weeks. And if you're an entrepreneur and you would like to be featured on this podcast, you can reach out to me directly at roach@ironforge.co. Roach is spelled ROCHE. Otherwise, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you next time.